I saw him standing perfectly still beside my car in the graveyard at midnight. When I called out, he didn't move, but when I got closer, he was gone, and my car door was wide open. I never meant to cut through the graveyard that night. The highway was closed for construction, and the detour signs led me down a series of back roads I didn't recognize. My gas tank was low, my phone battery even lower, and the night air had that heavy, suffocating stillness that makes you feel like you're the only person left in the world. That's when I saw the cemetery. The iron gate stood open, my headlights sweeping across rows of crooked headstones. Primera pulled over, thinking I heard something dragging under my car. The air smelled of wet earth and cut grass. The silence was absolute. No crickets, no wind, nothing. I checked the undercarriage, found nothing, and climbed back in. That's when I saw him. Man, standing perfectly still beside my car. His clothes looked old, tattered, his face hidden in shadow. I called out. He didn't move. I stepped closer, and in the blink of an eye, he was gone, but my car door was wide open. I drove away, trying to convince myself it was exhaustion, a trick of the light. But a few minutes later, I heard it. Click. The passenger lock popped up on its own. I slammed it down, pressed the central lock. All 4 doors clicked shut. Then it happened again. Click. The locks lit up like invisible fingers were testing it. Primera pulled over, twisted around to check the back seat. Empty. Just my jacket. But the air felt wrong. Heavy. Like someone had just exhaled in the car. When I finally got home, I saw it. On the inside of the passenger window, smeared faintly into the condensation, were 3 words. I saw you. That night, I barely slept. At 3:07 a.m., the front door rattled. The chain trembled against the wood. I crept closer, pressed my eye to the peephole. Nothing. Just the empty porch. Then 3 slow knocks. Not on the door, on the window behind me. I pulled the curtain back. No one there, but in the condensation, scrawled by a finger, were 3 words. Let me in. The next day I found a scrap of paper on the passenger seat, old yellowed. On it was an address, and beneath it, in shaky handwriting, you saw me. That night, I drove to the address, an abandoned house, windows boarded, yard overgrown. Inside, the air was thick with dust and rot, and carved into the floorboards, deep and jagged, were the same 3 words. Let me in. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Slow. Dragging. I raised my flashlight. At the end of the hallway, he stood. Perfectly still. The light flickered, and he was gone. I bolted out of the house. Sprinted to my car. The door was open again, the interior light glowing faintly. I slammed it shut, sped away, gravel spitting behind me. When I finally pulled into my driveway, I sat there shaking, trying to convince myself it was over. But when I looked down at the passenger seat, my blood ran cold. The same scrap of paper was there. Only this time the words had changed. I'm inside. I don't drive that road anymore. I don't cut through graveyards, and I never leave my car unlocked. But sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet, I hear it again, the sound of footsteps in the driveway, and when I look out the window, I see him, standing perfectly still beside my car. If you ever see someone standing by your car in a graveyard at midnight, don't get closer, because once you see him, he'll never stop seeing you. The first time I spoke a name aloud, I heard it whispered back to me. Not from my friends, from the darkness between the graves in my own voice. It started as a dare. 4 of us that night. Me, Ryan, Jess, and Mark. We were bored, restless, looking for something to do in our small town. Ryan, always the one chasing thrills, suggested it. Midnight cemetery run, he said with a grin. Whoever chickens out first buys breakfast. The cemetery sat on the edge of town, hidden behind skeletal trees. The wrought iron gates groaned as we pushed them open. Inside, the air was colder, damp, heavy. Our flashlights cut narrow beams through the dark, sweeping across crooked headstones. The silence was thick, broken only by the crunch of gravel under our shoes. Ryan explained the game. Pick a headstone, read the name aloud. Simple. I found one. Weathered, cracked. Eleanor Price, 1892 to 1914. I said it, Eleanor Price. My friends laughed, moving on. But then I heard it. A whisper, Eleanor Price. My voice, from the darkness behind the stone. I told myself it was nothing. Tea. Wind. An echo. But echoes don't sound like they're standing right behind you. I tried another stone. Thomas Hawley, 1871 to 1903. I said it aloud. And again, I heard it. Thomas Hawley. My voice whispered back. Ispunarond. Nothing. Just shadows and crooked stones. Ryan shouted his name at a tall headstone. Nothing answered. He smirked. See? Just a story. But when I looked back at the grave I'd read, the earth at its base was disturbed, like something had clawed its way up. We kept going, Jess muttered hers softly. Mark laughed nervously through his... But every time I spoke, I heard it. My own voice, whispering back. Then Jess froze. Did you hear that? We all went silent, and we heard it. Not one voice, many, layered. Rising and falling like a tide, and then clear as Damie's own name, whispered back to me. The whispers grew louder. Dozens of names. Hundreds. Spoken in voices that weren't ours, then our names. Over and over. Daniel. Jessariah. Mark. The sound vibrated up through the ground, through the soles of my shoes. Jess screamed and ran. Ryan cursed and chased after her. Mark and I followed, but the cemetery twisted around us. The rows of graves stretched endlessly. Jess's flashlight cut out. Her scream echoed once, then silence. Ryan shouted her name. No answer. Then, faintly, Jess's voice. Ryan, but it wasn't right. Flat. Hollow. Like someone imitating her. The whispers surged again. Not just names now. Sentences. Let us out. Say it again. You called us. Mark dropped his flashlight. His face pale as chalk. We need to leave. Now, but when I turned, the gate was gone, and from the shadows, figures emerged, dozens of them. Pale shapes, drifting closer. Mouths moving in unison, whispering our names. The figures closed in. Their whispers filled my head, louder, faster, until it felt like my skull would split. Ryan bolted into the fog. His light vanished. Silence. Mark stumbled. I pulled him up, but then warm breath on the back of my neck. And, in my own voice, whispered so close it made my skin crawl. Daniel, I spun around. Nothing. When I turned back, Mark was gone. His flashlight lay on the ground, beam pointing straight up into the fog. I was alone. The whispers softened. Almos Quinto. Whom? You called us. Stay with us. My flashlight flickered, then died, and in the darkness, I heard them. Not whispers anymore. Voices. Dozens. Hundreds. All speaking at once. All in my voice. The next thing I remember, I was lying outside the cemetery gates at dawn. My car was there. My friends were gone. The police searched. Found nothing. They said I imagined it, that I was in shock. But I know the truth. Because sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet, I hear it again. A whisper. My own voice, speaking names I never said aloud. If you ever find yourself in a graveyard at midnight, don't speak the names on the stones, because once you do, they'll whisper yours back.